and welcome to another episode of The New Norm with Selena Hill. I'm your host, Selena Hill, and today I have the privilege to speak with Jasmine Jordan, who is the daughter of NBA legend Michael Jordan. She is also a mother and an executive at Nike Jordan Brand. Jasmine, thank you so much for speaking with us today.
No, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You've been making your media rounds. You've been doing a lot.
Yeah.
Quarantine has not stopped the workflow for a
No,
lot of us.
not at all. Like you said, this is that new norm. So I'm just getting used to Zoom interviews, Zoom calls, Zoom meetings, and just zooming through.
Seriously, I actually wanted to start there. Like, how have you adjusted to this new norm in quarantine life, you and your family?
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment, like you said. I already work from home with being based in North Carolina and working for Jordan Brand, but it's just constant, like more meetings than before, and constantly being on video and like just talking to everybody a little bit more than usual. So it's definitely been an adjustment, but we're taking it with strides and just being positive and trying to find the light in this crazy situation.
Absolutely. And I actually read an article that said that Zoom interviews can actually feel more draining. Do you think, when it comes to that comparison of running around in real life and you got to speak to people and, we're always traveling versus being at home, but still conducting business via Zoom, has that been a big work adjustment for you?
Yeah, slightly. We don't have the ability to travel right now. And that's what's really throwing me off. Cause even though being based in North Carolina, working from home, I do go to campus in our headquarters in Portland often. So like not being able to do that and having our meetings face to face and only having Zoom, it's definitely draining, because I think when you do have the ability to actually be in front of your coworkers and partners, and you feed off of the actual energy that you're getting from that person or those
Mm-hmm.
physically in your presence. So only doing video and only doing Zooms, it's like, okay, I got to be my own hype man. I got to boost myself up. Okay, 6 more meetings. So it's definitely adjusting to that and literally only being able to, feed off of yourself and relying only on your own energy and no one else is definitely an adjustment. But you just have to make the best of it and try to keep going and keep pushing. But it's hard.
Yeah, you articulated that so well because again, we only have our own energy. So thank you for that. And even though we are home, there have been some silver linings, like the Last Dance documentary, which everyone is raving about. Again, that is the documentary about your father's journey to his sixth NBA championship. What did you learn, and what are you learning about your dad while watching The Last Dance?
I'm learning and really seeing that competitive drive in him that he constantly told stories about to myself and my brothers. And during that last run, I was only 5, 6 years old, and so I barely remember the games and the stats and everything that he was accomplishing. I remember it just being loud and rambunctious, and everyone was so excited. And at the time, I never understood why. So now being able to actually watch the documentary and see what's behind the curtain, it's been incredible, because now I'm understanding, like, you made a lot of sacrifices, Dad, to do what you had to do to have all these accomplishments and achievements. So it's definitely been incredible, and just learning and seeing that competitive nature basically being played out right in front of our eyes through this documentary. But it's definitely been eye-opening to see that competitive drive within him.
Speaking of competitive nature, your dad would not be the NBA icon if it was not for his competitiveness.
Yeah.
Do you think any of that rubbed off on you, or are you more so laid back as a person?
Oh, I'm so competitive.
Okay.
It's definitely in my
Okay.
blood. There's no avoiding it. Now I'm not gonna just challenge people on the street to see who can jog the fastest or anything like that. But if the opportunity presents itself, I'm gonna make sure I come out on top, whatever it is, for sure.
And so how does that sort of bleed into the work you're doing at Nike Jordan Brand and also with the Charlotte Hornets?
Yeah, so with Jordan Brand, I'm in sports marketing as a field representative. So I handle, a lot of our partnerships and relationships with our athletes with the brand, and being that liaison and that communicator for them to our company, our organization. And so making sure I understand how they want the consumers to see them and their audience to understand who they are on and off the court is definitely a big testament to what I do. And so I always make sure to understand my athletes and making sure I'm hearing, how they want to be perceived. And when I communicate that back to our team in marketing and in digital and, our branding, and just making sure they know, hey, this athlete is caring. He wants to talk about his family or so on and so forth. And, making sure that we give them that opportunity and that voice. And whether it's through, our marketing and telling their stories, or with their footwear and what they're playing in and doing special colorways and things of that nature. It's definitely a well-rounded opportunity for our athletes with us to work with. And it's that pressure upon me making sure that I'm doing the service that they need and making sure that the audience understands who they are and we're servicing them product-wise with the best in the game. So it takes a lot, but it's something that I love doing.
And you've also had a big role in sort of curating the Jordan women brand, the
Yeah.
women's brand. I know that's something that you've been fighting for a while. Talk about how that sort of came about and your role in that.
Yeah, it's definitely been something I wanted to happen since I was a little girl. Jordan Brand launched the women's line when I really was super, super young. And back then I would submit sketches and think I was designing and they would make one-off products. But at that time, it wasn't really socially acceptable to be seen in your workout clothes or anything like that outside of the gym. So now when you fast forward to today, you have women going to the club in sweatpants, and it's socially acceptable to really be seen in sneakers and make it fashion. So it's the perfect time, and timing really was everything to make sure that when we wanted to bring that Jordan women's line back, that the consumer was ready for it, they were asking for it, and we're really supplying that demand, and knowing that we're listening to our market and listening to the audience, and we're not just making product just to say, hey, we're servicing our women, like that's it. No, we wanted to be thoughtful and make sure we understood that, hey, you want the OGs and the retro footwear, but you also want to spin on it. You want it to be flirty. You want it to be girly. And, looking at the full process to get where we are today, timing was everything. And now is the perfect time. And it's really been super successful.
How would you say the new contemporary launch compares to the launch back in the day that you talked about just now?
It's different. Like we said, I think back in the day, we didn't have authenticators on our brand. We didn't have the Maya Moores. We didn't have the Kia Nurses and the Asia Durs and the Tiana Taylors like
Mm.
now. And that was really the main thing. My father wanted to make sure if we're going to add women's and really supply product for our female followers in our market, we're doing it in an authentic and genuine way. And we're not just slapping it out there, like I said. So once we realized that that audience was there and that desire and that demand was there, we had to make sure we collaborated and partnered with the Tianas and the Laylee Mays and the Billie Eilishes and things like that to make sure that, our audience knows we're listening. And we want to make sure we're touching every facet of woman, every single girl, everyone that's out there, not just be one typed and following only one market, So that was our main thing. And knowing that from then to today, there's so many women and there's so many diverse backgrounds, and making sure that we're able to supply something for everybody.
Right. So representation was really important, you think,
Absolutely.
to relaunch in 2020. I do want to get back to, your father, even though you are paving your own lane.
Absolutely.
It's only inevitable that you learned some lessons from him that you're probably applying as an adult. So let's talk about that. Have you learned anything in business or in life growing up, being raised by Michael Jordan, that you are now applying?
Oh yeah, for sure. Everything that, I do, whether it's business decisions or personal decisions, my father made sure to drive home that you need to be authentic. It needs to be real. It needs to be genuine, because then you don't have to fake it. It's not something that you have to constantly remember. You're not putting a facade on or anything like that. If it's authentic and genuine and it comes from the heart, then that's all that matters. And, people will consume it. People will appreciate it. People will relate to it as long as it's true to you and who you are. So that's definitely something that has been basically my bread and butter when anything that I do. And on top of that, it's just making sure that excuse me, that no matter what, you trust your gut. Your gut's going to tell you and you're going to feel it if it's right or wrong. And it's something that can't be taught. It's something that can't be explained. It's not something you can buy. Like, your gut instinct is your gut instinct, and you have to feel that out. And my dad has made incredible decisions solely off of his gut. And that's something that I love doing today, and making sure that it feels right before I make any business decisions.
I read that you didn't even understand who your father was as an icon until you were like 10 or 11 and you had to Google it. But to me, that's a testament to like your parents doing like a really good job and making sure that you can be raised as a normal child to a certain degree. So I mean, so can you talk about like you never like understood who Michael Jordan was?
Not at all. Like I said, I remember going to games and it being loud, and I'm just thinking, this is just family outings. Like everyone does this, right? Like it's normal. So it took me a really long time because kids would just kept coming up and saying, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. Your dad's blah blah blah." And I'm like, how do you guys know my dad? Like, what do you mean? You're not at my house at night. Like, you're not coming over. So where are you guys getting this from? So no joke, I really did Google him, and I told him like, hey, I Googled you. I get it now. And he just like laughed and was like, look, this is a part of my life that I kind of wanted to protect you guys from, my brothers and myself, and let you guys come into it on your own and in your own way and on your own terms. And, I appreciate him and my mother doing that, because I think if we were exposed to it in such a crazy way in that young of an age, we really wouldn't have understood it. So thankfully, my mom and my dad both made sure we had a well-rounded childhood, and, we learned the city of Chicago and knew where they came from and everything like that. But I had no idea until that Google search, like he was that big of a deal.
Now that you're a mother, is that something that you are going to apply to your son, or are you and your fiance going to, let him know off the back who he is and what Jordan as a name, the legacy that it carries?
It's definitely going to be something we allow our son to kind of learn organically. I don't want to put upon him. I don't want him to feel like, hey, this is grandpa, let's study his film. Like, I don't want that to happen. I definitely want him to know that, hey, your grandfather did some incredible things. And when you're ready and have those questions, we'll be here with answers. But I want him to just grow up in his own right and understand that, hey, you're coming from a loving, God-fearing family, and that's the priority that we want you to understand. And then anything else that comes with it is just icing on the cake.
Now, we all know, obviously, your father, the legend, and we're getting to relive some of those highlighting moments through The Last Dance. Mm-hmm. But who does Michael Jordan, as a father and now a grandfather?
Mm-hmm. I think people see in the documentary, my dad was maybe perceived as a bully or super hard on his teammates and things like that. But as a father, my dad's a softie. Like he loves myself, my brothers, and our, my baby sisters, and just is really a nurturing and loving guy. He has a soft spot and a soft side that a lot of people don't get to see, because the only light that, people consumed him in was when he was working on his craft and on the court and being a business savvy man. But my dad is super fun and laid back and sweet, and that competitiveness is still there. Don't get me wrong. We have our battles when it comes to Sudoku puzzles or who's going to finish breakfast first. Like, that happens. But no, he is just a loving and caring individual, and he's super supportive. And that's an aspect that a lot of people don't get to see that, I'm fortunate to see on a daily basis.
What's one trait that you hope your son can pick up from your father?
Ooh. That's a great question. I think I want my son to really get my father's driven abilities, and just know that nothing can stop him. My father, when he was playing and understanding the game of basketball, he was so driven to the point where nothing was going to get in his way. He was going to become the greatest. That was his goal, and he did exactly that. So I want my son to just know whatever he decides to do in life, to just commit to it, love it, and let nothing get in your way, because the world is his oyster and there is nothing that can stop him from doing anything except for himself. So if he understands that he can be whatever he wants to be, and all it requires is that hard work and that determination and that drive that my father had, then that's all that matters.
I do want to switch gears a bit. Where do you stand in that whole LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate?
I'm biased. My father is the GOAT. He's the greatest. Like, I'm going to say it no matter what. But, it really depends on the eras. If you look at the game that my father was playing, it was harder. They had to create a set of rules, Jordan rules, specifically to stop him, And when you look at today's game, it's definitely, different when it comes to the competitions and the refs and the calls and everything that goes into it. You know, I joke sometimes and I say, oh, today's game's soft. Like, you know, it's not like how it was back in the day when my dad's getting scratched up and beat up and clobbered. But, you know, it really just goes back to where the game is at that time. And I think my father was the greatest in his era. I think before you get to LeBron, you know, Kobe was the greatest during his time. And then today, LeBron is doing exactly what he needs to do to become the greatest of this era. So the debate is ongoing and will forever be there, but my dad's going to come out on top no matter what, if you ask me.
No, for sure. Like, that's the answer, of course, that I think,
Yes.
you know, we would definitely expect you to say. But, your father was so private. And I
Mhm.
think that, you just mentioned Kobe Bryant. At his memorial, we got to see a really intimate side of your father and his relationship with Kobe Bryant that I don't think a lot of us were really, really understood how
Mhm.
strong that bond was. And, he even, shed some tears. Can you talk about, from your perspective growing up, like, did you ever see Kobe Bryant or hear from him? Did you, ever hear your dad talk about him? Like, did you know how close they were?
For sure. I definitely did. And when I was younger, when Kobe was playing, you know, I didn't like him. I was like, oh my God, dad, he's coming after your title. Like, doesn't this bother you? Like, don't you want to be the greatest? And I would have those conversations. And my dad was like, no, 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 no. That's not what it is, boo. He's emulating my game and he learned from me. I mentored him and he's becoming Kobe Bryant. He's becoming himself. But at the end of the day, he had to learn that from my father. And it was like that little brother relationship that at that time I didn't understand until I got older. So I was able to really, you know, understand and hear the conversations that they were having and knowing that, you know, the things that Kobe was doing really was because of my father. And it was a compliment and a testament to the accomplishments he did. And now he's doing it in his own right. So it was definitely a relationship that outside looking in was beautiful and a lot of people didn't understand. And you know, rest in peace. And it sucks to not have him and to ask the same questions to him that I've been able to ask my dad. But it was definitely a relationship that my father cherished and will continue to cherish because he truly was like a little brother to him.
Yeah, and as the saying goes, imitation is the best form of flattery.
Yeah,
And I think that that relationship was based on respect.
absolutely.
And we did not, fully understand it until, Michael Jordan, really opened up. And I'm grateful for that moment. But, speaking of that, your father has also built a business legacy that has expanded for decades on end. I mean, since I was growing up, Jordan's was always the sneaker to have, and you're carrying that legacy, at least when it comes to the business aspect of it. So can you just talk about, how does that feel? Do you feel like maybe some pressure, or do you feel like, what, my dad set the groundwork and I'm going to take it to the next level?
Absolutely. I think no matter what, there's going to be pressure. You know, there's going to be that sense of entitlement and expectation from people, but I can't control anyone's perception. I can only control what I do and how I contribute to my father's legacy. And like you said, he laid out the foundation for me to help elevate it. So what I do on a day-to-day basis is a full representation of me and my accomplishments, but I also know that it's helping that legacy grow. It's helping that legacy touch upon the generations that never got to see him play and is trying to understand, like, why does everybody care about Jordans? Why are they so obsessed with this sneaker that's connected to this athlete? So on a day-to-day basis, when I'm doing my due diligence and doing my duties and carrying on that legacy, I want to make sure that as the brand grows and evolves, that we're constantly getting new fans and new followers that are willing and open to understand, like, hey, this is what Jordan Brand is and this is what it's become. Now just join us on part of the journey and help it grow as well. So it's definitely something that I'm doing on a consistent basis. And I love it because I'm not only helping further my father's legacy and his brand, but I'm also helping the younger generation become a part of it and become a part of the family that Jordan really is.
And you guys are doing a great job at it too.
Thank you.
Why do you think the Jordan brand has such longevity? How has it been able to reach, starting from our parents' generation, Generation X, we're millennials, and now even Gen Z love Jordans? How is that happening?
I think it's happening because, like you said, it's a generational brand. You know, our Gen Zs have not seen my father play, but their siblings, their friends, their parents, their grandparents have. So it really starts with our bread and butter and our OGs and our first set of fans that are like, hey, let me tell you who Michael Jordan is. Let me tell you that story. And it starts from home, and it starts from, you know, their own personal relationships. And then once those, you know, little seeds are planted, it's our job to just water them and see, okay, now that we've got you, or now that you're thinking about coming a part of the brand, allow us to tell our story authentically and organically from our own lens. And, you know, we're trying to make sure that no matter what, our consumers and our audience are hearing our voice and feeling our brands and knowing that we hear them as well, whether it's, you know, during our consumer research and going into the markets and understanding our demographics. You know, we just want to make sure that no matter what, that our product is reaching everybody. But it truly does start from at home. It starts with your parents, it starts with your uncles and, you know, our original fans. And then once they hand that torch, it's on them to carry it on, and making sure that we're relating to them and knowing that, hey, we hear you, we hear your voices. Now listen to our story and let's work together.
Absolutely. And obviously you're continuing that legacy yourself again as a mother. I know that you're actually engaged
Yes.
and you have wedding plans for this fall.
Mm-hmm.
Has the Rona set anything back in that aspect, or are you guys still aiming to
We
work
are
down the
still
aisle?
aiming.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we are still aiming, and we're just praying that Corona and COVID just respect our wedding. Please, please, please. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about safety first and health precautions, and we're keeping a close eye on everything as, you know, different cities and states are starting to open up and things are slowly becoming our new norm and allowing things to happen. But we're just praying and hoping that no matter what, we can still, you know, get married this fall. But it's looking good so far.
Fingers crossed. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine. Congratulations on getting engaged. Best of luck with the wedding, your work, and even your son. We appreciate your time today.
For sure. Thank you for having me. I loved it.